Silver and gold took a significant hit this last Tuesday, and even though that happened, we had a coin dealer who had a sale during the exact same day, and he sold a lot of gold and silver. Today, we're going to talk to him and find out how that worked. Did he lose money selling all that silver with spot price being down? Especially since today, it is definitely recovered. Let's be joined by Josh from My Coin and Bullion and find out exactly how that worked out for him, as well as ask him how it's going with gold and silver in his neck of the woods. But before we do, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe and help us continue to grow. My channel is sponsored by sdbullion.com. New customers can get their first order of gold or silver at spot by going to sdbullion.com/new. Josh, on Monday on your channel, you advertised a flash sale on silver and gold maples, right? And then that flash sale was supposed to be for Tuesday. And then not only did Tuesday open to much lower spot prices, but you still had the flash sale going. So how did that work out for you? What happened that day?
Well, I moved a lot of metal that day. Didn't necessarily make any profit, but we moved a lot of metal. Yeah, I had set up and pre-advertised on my own channel that I was going to be pushing out 1 ounce BU silver maple leafs at spot plus 250, and then 1/10 ounce gold maples at spot plus, or actually melt plus 10%, which was well under any other pricing I could find anywhere. So I thought it was a pretty good deal, and put that video up Monday saying the sale was Tuesday. Well, I woke up Tuesday morning, both gold, I think gold was down about $30 from when I put the video out, and silver about anywhere from 50 to 60 cents. So needless to say, that drop in spot plus the low premiums I was charging that one day only spurred a lot of business in the shop. That was probably my most hectic and stressful, in a good way, day in the shop, just for the sheer amount of traffic that I had coming in for people scooping up those deals. And my phone rang all day. And it's just me, so I was the one taking all the calls and trying to help all the people in person and fielding text messages. I got some emails, and I'm not complaining. I did it to myself. It's great to have the business. It's great to move the metal, and it's great to give people a good deal. And I know a lot of people were excited, not only for the low premium, like I said, but also the drop in spot, which made it really a good deal compared to where prices have been.
Yeah, and it worked out so well for them. And it's great for me to hear from you that people are taking advantage of deals like that, because when you see, the combination of your special, which there's no way you could have known what spot was going to do Tuesday, but you advertised it anyway.
Nope.
And then It was great of you to honor it, given that it had dropped, and like you had said, you probably didn't make any profit, but it's great to see so many people. Now, am I correct when we talked via text message yesterday, you were so busy on Tuesday that you took yesterday off? Is that right?
I did, but honestly, it was a pre-planned day off. It was Valentine's Day.
That's fair.
So I told my wife I'd spend the day with her, plus we had a pet that we had to bring to the vet, and my wife wanted me to come with. So it was kind of a prearranged, but it came at a good time because I was exhausted by the time I was done on Tuesday.
I imagine so.
It was a much needed day off.
Yeah, it was interesting. I woke up that Tuesday morning and I noticed that the spot had dropped, and it continued to drop throughout the day. I'm like, man, that is crazy to see it go that low. And then I saw gold drop under $2,000. And, I had been telling myself, we kind of talked about this before we started recording. I was telling myself that once gold drops under $2,000, that's a floor that it might continue to go down. But today it's looking like it's holding its own right above 2,000 again. I'm looking at spot price at 2,004. Me and you, we don't predict spot prices, but what has the sentiment been? Do people feel like are they buying because they feel like it's where it's going to be? Or are they waiting a bit now that, other than your deal yesterday, are they waiting to see where it goes to?
Well, in my part of the world, and we've touched on this quite a bit, I haven't seen a slowdown in retail business in my shop. I've seen an uptick.
Yeah.
So I don't think people are necessarily, I know some are waiting for a certain price to hit before they load up. I have several customers that I know that they cost average because they tell me that. And they'll come in, well, what can I buy silver rounds for today? And I'll quote them the price. And if it's above their cost average, they're not buying. If it's at or below, they'll buy a monster box. So, yeah. I mean, I know there's people out there like that, but I think for the most part, the change, or maybe not the change, but the way I've been seeing my business grow is a lot of new customers coming in to buy metal. not necessarily waiting for a certain price point, but they're, I hate to say it, but some of them are buying it out of fear, not necessarily the fear of missing out, but the fear of our financial system, our economic situation, our political situation, the global situation. And there's people that are just looking for other places to park their cash, and metals is an obvious choice. There's other things you could do as well. But I'm seeing a lot of new customers. And I will just tell you, during that flash sale I had Tuesday, I had four. Well, it was two different. No, it was four. I had four different people come in and buy from me for the first time. And it just so happened I was having the flash sale. So a couple of them did take advantage of that because I let them know, well, I have silver maples on sale today. Others just wanted silver bars, but I had between a gentleman and his wife, they walked out of here with 82 10-ounce silver bars. They were first-time silver buyers, but they wanted metal. I mean, they walked out with 820 ounces, not knowing what they wanted to buy when they walked in the door. They asked questions about gold. I gave them my speech about gold, and I'm not going to give it on here, but I kind of have, not necessarily a speech, but I typically have a stock answer if somebody asks, well, what do you think about gold? What do you think about silver? So I gave them all the information I had, and then I let them choose. Ultimately, they chose silver. And that's what I'm seeing most people do. And part of it might be because of how how can I say this? How I frame gold in relationship to silver. And I always make sure I tell them this is personal opinion, because it is 100% my personal opinion. But I'm a bigger believer in silver. Not everybody's going to agree. Blow it up in the comments if you disagree. Let us know. But I'm a bigger believer in long-term potential for silver. Is gold going to go up? Yes. Is gold going to go down? Yes. So is silver. But I just believe on a percentage basis, silver has a better stored potential for increase in value over time. And that's the key. It's over time. It might not happen tonight or tomorrow or next month or next year or the next decade. But I think silver is going to have its day. That's just my own personal belief. When people ask me about gold, basically it's the same thing. I mean, yes, gold is an investment metal, has great opportunity. It's always been, considered real money since biblical times. But right now it sits near an all-time high, where silver is around, less than half. I play the ratio game myself personally. I know a lot of people don't like to do that. But since I've explained that to customers, I've had many, many customers. In fact, this past Tuesday during the flash sale, I had a customer drive from 7 hours away in Minnesota. They're a very good customer, and they drive 7 hours to come see me. I'm honored by that. But they drove
awesome.
7 hours to do a swap. Now, they actually did a reverse swap of what I would consider to be beneficial. They actually traded in silver and went home with gold, which is kind of the opposite of what I've seen people do lately. It's been the opposite. People will bring in gold and swap for silver because I don't know what the ratio is today. It's probably close to 90-1. But this customer in particular wanted gold. So I think they traded like 230 ounces of silver back into me, went home with 2 gold buffaloes and some cash. To each their own. People are handling it differently. So there is no one thing that's, right for everybody. And my customer base reminds me of that every day. Some are buying silver, some are buying gold, some are trading one for the other, and some are doing the opposite. So I think just owning metal is a good place to be right now. And that's what a lot of people are doing, and a lot of new people in my market are getting into it.
For sure. And I'm glad that you emphasized personal opinion, because I share that opinion. I've talked many times about how I believe silver has a much better potential for, increase in value. So, there are so many people, though, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, given that your YouTube channel, is doing well also. But I get so many comments from people, they'll literally will put in the comments like, silver is a scam, you're wasting your money, blah, blah, blah. And listen, people are entitled to that opinion. I would ask that if you really do believe that about silver, why are you sitting here watching channels that are primarily about silver? Doesn't make any sense to me, but maybe in the back of their mind, they think they might be wrong, and I don't know, but it just cracks me up. But I wanted to bring up a couple of points, though. I don't want to sit here and take up the entire conversation. First, I wanted to ask you about, you had said that they had left with 80 some odd 10-ounce bars, the new customer that came in, the husband and wife. Is that right?
Yeah, excuse me, 82.
Okay.
Yep.
So how much were you selling the 10-ounce bars for versus what you were selling the maples for that day?
10-ounce bars were spot plus $1.75
Okay. So they saved 75
per
cents.
ounce. Yeah,
So they saved
per
75 cents
ounce.
per ounce. So they saved 820 times 0.75. So yeah, they saved like $600 ish. I would say
Right,
over just getting maples.
versus buying a sovereign 1 ounce silver maple that was on sale that day. So they walked out with, other than buying, excuse me, even bigger bars, which they could have got 100-ounce bars at a cheaper rate. But I didn't have enough to fill an order that size. So they settled on 10-ounce bars so they could walk out with it.
Yeah.
And they were happy, but they were just really looking to maximize ounces for dollars. And that's what a lot of people are doing. Having said that, I sold a ton of maple leafs on Tuesday where they
Yeah.
could have bought silver rounds for less. You know what I mean? But I mean, it was to each their own. I mean, I like stacking it all. And I think based on what I see you stack in your videos, you like it all too.
Yeah.
Silver is silver. We like all kinds.
In that, in that situation, if I were those people, I think maybe I would have done both. Like I would have bought, if I'm trying to maximize my silver ounces, I would have probably primarily bought the 10-ounce bars and saved the 75 cents. But I may have bought like 100 maples just so I had some smaller stuff to mix in there. I don't know. First purchase, I don't know if it's all going to be 10-ounce bars for me, but like you said, teach their own. I'm not going to judge them.
Right.
So my second thing I wanted to bring up is I was at the coin show last Friday, and one thing I noticed at the coin show, and this was echoed by many dealers that I talked to, so it wasn't just me with my eyes. I was hearing this come out of the dealers' mouths, and actually I had a dealer comment in my video who said the exact same thing. He said that, and this is probably, I get that different parts of the country, there's different sentiment, there's different things going on, but here, and then what the dealer had commented on, he had noticed, and I had noticed, that there was way less people looking at the show for like silver and gold bullion, but it was busy, and there were way more people than what I saw at the show last year looking at collectibles, numismatics, Morgan silver dollars, so on and so forth, going through boxes of collectible coins instead of bullion. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed in your part of the world an increase in interest in numismatics, semi-numis, and collectibles?
Honestly, yes. I
Okay.
have, and that's partially what's responsible for the increase in my business. It's mostly because I'm selling a lot more bullion, but there are more and more people that are coming in with lists, trying to fill holes in collections. I have a gentleman that comes in probably 2 days a week, and he has probably 15 different handwritten lists on tiny sheets of paper that he pulls out of his vest pocket each time. And he looks for different coins for different types of sets. He was in actually on Tuesday during that crazy day. He wasn't interested in buying any bullion that day, even though he could get, maple leafs for cheap. He was looking at Indian head cents, and he was looking at Liberty v. Nichols. That was his focus. And he actually found a few he needed. So I was happy that I had some, because oftentimes when people are filling collectible sets, they tend to save the expensive coins for the end. And that's why so many of those sets never get completed. I've been given the advice, but I don't follow it myself. If you're going to collect a set, buy the expensive ones first. It'll be much easier to complete in your life. But, if you're collecting Morgan silver dollars, I mean, are you going to want to spend, $4,000 on an 1893 S as your first coin in
Right.
that set? But anyway, I have seen that, not just this one gentleman, but more people in particular, more new customers. And I see a lot of young collectors too. And even though I do have young collectors coming in strictly just buying bullion, which I love to see, I wish I had that knowledge and that savvy when I was 10 years old to spend my allowance on silver, but I wasted it on baseball cards in the 80s and 90s. And now they're in the dump somewhere.
It was
But
it was video games and Magic the Gathering for me, just so you know.
yeah, I know we've talked about that before. Similar thing, and I don't really have regrets. But maybe if I would have just split it between silver and cards at the time, I'd be better off. But long story short, there's a lot of young people that come in that are collectors, that have their wheat cents books, that have their Roosevelt dime books, that have their state quarter books, that are looking to fill collectibles. And I, believe it or not, I have young children. I mean, I'm talking 10, 12 years old, that they're doing Morgan silver dollar sets. And they might come in and pine over all I mean, we have 1,000 Morgans in inventory probably, and they're looking, they can maybe afford one or two. Well, they might go home with a $50 Morgan silver dollar that they bought with their own money. And I think that's great to see. And where a 10 or 12-year-old gets $50, I'm not sure, but maybe it's allowance, maybe it's birthday money, whatever. But there are a lot of collectors, young and old, that are purchasing collectible numismatic coins more so than before. And
Yeah.
that's good to see. I think that's a good sign for the hobby, and what's going on at the coin show you were at. I think that's a good sign.
Yeah, I do too. All right, so I just want to ask you one more thing before we get off of here. Where do we go from here? And I'm not talking about predicting gold and silver prices, guys. That's not something me or Josh do. But just in general, like the demand, even though you had a great sale, when you had that flash sale on gold and silver maples, and even though I have heard that there are new people getting into gold and silver, overall, the market seems to be a little bit weaker than it was, say, middle of last year. There's a lot of people that aren't stacking anymore. We're getting a lot more hatred from people in the comments that are against stacking, probably because it hasn't reacted the way that they think it's going to do, or they thought it was going to do, I should say. I mean, where do we go from here? Should people continue stacking? Should they hold the line? Should they wait to see what happens with metals? I mean, I'm not going to tell people what to do. This isn't financial advice, but what would you do in this current market if you were a silver stacker for a long time, per se? What would you do?
Yeah. Well, coincidentally, I am a silver stacker for long term, but I also sell it. So take my opinion for what it's worth. Here's how I see it in my shop. And you talked about how demand is decreasing across the country. I hear that loud and clear, not just on your channel, on a lot of channels. I know other dealers from other parts of the country, and they're echoing that same thing. It's just not the case up here where I am. And I think part of that is, yes, there maybe people are hurting. Let's be honest. I mean, economically, things are a little tough for a lot of people. And those people that maybe were, I would call them infrequent silver stackers, where they might come in and buy an ounce or two here and there, maybe once a month. They can't afford to anymore. So those people are not buying. I mean, I can picture in my head a handful of customers that I would see frequently that I haven't seen in a while. And I think that's part of the reason. Having said that, those that have the means to buy precious metals and aren't impacted economically right now are buying even more, because in my mind, silver is on sale. Arguably, you could argue gold is too, but I just think we already touched on it earlier in the video. Silver is, in my mind, relatively cheap versus where I feel it should be. And I think a lot of people think that. Whether I feel or whether that's accurate, who knows? But I would just echo what I tell people in the shop who ask that question. Silver's a long game, requires a lot of patience. Don't get too worked up on the ups and downs, because you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to get super excited. You would have been super excited, or you'd have been very disappointed yesterday, but you'd have woke up this morning very excited because silver's up 70 cents from where it was yesterday, or 80 cents even. That's a huge gain. That's 3.5%, 4.5%. But the patience part is what's tough, because I know a lot of people that have been stacking for a long time, longer than me, that always think, oh, we're close. We're close to something big. It's going to break out. It's going to break out. I think if that's always on the forefront of your mind, you're setting yourself up for a bit of disappointment. Because is silver going to go up? 100% yes, it will. But 100% yes, silver's also going to go down. There's going to be peaks and valleys. It ebbs and flows. It's a commodity. And it's a manipulated commodity. I don't think anybody would argue that. So will it have its day in the sun? I 100% believe it will. Granted, this is opinion. That's why I'm continuing to stack, and I've been stacking for about 14 years now. I started collecting a long time ago, but that's just kind of where things are for me now. So I would just encourage people to be patient, and that's real easy for me to say, but it's hard for a person to do. But I don't want to discourage or encourage anybody to buy right now. That's just a decision they got to come up with on their own. So, but me personally, I'm bringing silver home every week, adding to my stack.
I agree, and I think people see that. I talk about how I'm adding. Like I'm buying more this year than I did last year. I was not a big fan of the high premiums last year, and this may sound stupid. All right, if let's just say ultimately you pay $28 per ounce for silver, and I understand you wouldn't do that today, but my point is, let's say ultimately your out the door cost for like an ounce of silver is $28. I would rather that $28 be spot 26 plus 2 or spot 25 plus 3 than spot 21 plus 7. You know what I mean? And that sounds
100%.
And it sounds like it doesn't matter because your out the door cost is the same, but it just doesn't feel the same. You know what I mean? So this year with the premiums dropping, I know, like you had said, I guess there's a lot of people that are hurting, and I know there are a lot of people that are hurting. I'm not just guessing. I know there are. I hear it all the time. I know there's a lot of people that are hurting. So yeah, those people aren't coming in and buying. But for those that have the ability to continue to stack, this is such, in my opinion, like you had said, we're not financial advisors, but this is a great time for it because we haven't seen premiums this low since before the silver squeeze, since basically before COVID. And with spot pulling back a little bit on at the same time, it's just, in my opinion, a great time to add to your stack. So I've been taking advantage of it. Maybe I should have taken advantage of your sale that day. Yeah, my bad. I missed out.
You sure can. All you got to do is send me a text.
For sure. But guys, we're going to cut it off there. We like to have Josh on every couple of weeks. So if you guys want to see more from Josh, make sure you subscribe here, but also go over and subscribe to Josh on his channel. I'll put a link in the description below. He has a great YouTube channel, puts out videos every single week, and I look forward to seeing him, and I hope you guys do as well. Josh, thank you again for joining me. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Likewise. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Anytime. We'll see you next time, guys.